Where do I go here?
Great. Good?
Okay.
Yeah. Good? These are all social media, so we don't share. Do you know how many? It's enough. Okay. When there's the night for our due date. Okay.
Yes.
We don't have a program. We're gonna get started. So, thank you. Good evening, fellow Democrats. Obviously the room is on fire today. Hot and outside, hot here. Earlier today, I got a glimpse of the opening of the Obama Presidential Center, and it was a reminder why we're all here. President Obama inspired a generation with 3 simple words: yes, we can. And tomorrow we celebrate Juneteenth, and on Sunday we celebrate Father's Day. At a time when so much of the news is filled with negativity, these moments remind us of the progress that we've made, the people who inspire us, and the values that bring us together. Change does not happen by accident. It happens because people like you show up, you get involved, and you do the work. We are creating change we believe in. So thank you for being here tonight. This forum has been in the planning stages since March, and it would not have been possible without the dedicated forum committee of the Miami Beach Democrats. I'd like to thank our board of directors, our committee members, and our many volunteers who have helped make tonight possible. I also would like to thank our incredible co-hosts, the Greater Aventura Democrat Club, the Miami-Dade Young Democrats, and the Miami-Dade Democratic Party. While we know there has been challenges and frustrations along the way, we are committed to working together, building unity, and turning Miami-Dade blue once again. I would like to recognize the Greater Aventura Democrat President Steve Friedman, the Young Democrat President Adrian Pena, and Miami-Dade Democrat Party Chair Laura Kelly. We would also like to point out a very important local election race. On August 18th, voters will elect a new Miami-Dade County Commission for District 5. Rob Piper is a longtime Democrat activist, community leader, and the only Democrat in that race. This reflects values, our vision for the future of Miami-Dade County. Thank you, Mom. And thank you for all the candidates here tonight for stepping forward and giving voters a voice. We would like to give a big thank you to the Hotel Marseilles, the Mandel family, and the Backyard Restaurant for providing us such a wonderful home for this event. Finally, I'd like to recognize our moderator for the evening, Alfonso Pancho de Anda, who has graciously volunteered his time to bring us together tonight. Pancho is a Democrat and a member of the Democratic Party, leading, as well as one of the most recognizable personalities in Spanish language television, with a career spanning nearly 3 decades in radio and television. He has hosted programs on Telemundo, Univision, TV Azteca, and Mundo Fox, including Cada Dia and El Factor X, and numerous national special events from the Billboard Latin Music Awards to the Tournament of Roses Park. The Rose Parade. Yes, yeah. Thank you.
That's a good morning.
Throughout his career, career, he has interviewed some of the biggest names in entertainment, and he has become a trusted voice for Hispanic audiences across the United States. We are honored to have him moderating tonight's forum. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Pancho. Enjoy the forum, and let's get Democrats elected.
It's very proud to be a Democrat, and I assume I will also proud to be Democrats, right? Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this 2006 Democratic Primary Forum. As Amanda said, my name is Alfonso de Anda, but my friends can call me Poncho. That's a nickname for Alfonso in Mexico, where I was born. So just call me Poncho, and we're gonna be good. That way, I'm gonna feel that we're just friends, okay? We're good for that. Okay. So I'll be the moderator this evening, and tonight's forum is hosted by the Miami Beach Democratic Club, the Greater Aventura Democratic Club, the Miami-Dade Democratic Party, and the Miami-Dade Young Democrats. Today, as Amanda was mentioning, was a very meaningful day for Democrats because it was the inauguration of the Obama Presidential Center. That was amazing. Did you saw it? It was amazing because it reminded us that public service can be guided by hope, by decency, and a genuine commitment to what is best for this country. And that's what we want. President Obama's place in history reminds us that we can always strive to be better. And that is what we hope to learn tonight, how each of these candidates that we're going to meet plan to serve, lead, and help build a better future. Before we begin, I would like to review a few simple rules so we're all on the same channel. For standard questions, candidates will have up to 90 seconds to respond. Linda Coco will show a 30-second warning card. Hi, Linda. You're very close to me. Yeah. I may respectfully interrupt when time has expired so we can remain on schedule. For the lightning round, answers should be brief, approximately 20 seconds. Opening and closing statements, when included, are limited to 2 minutes, and we ask every candidate to maintain a respectful and professional tone, avoid interruptions, and focus on policy, leadership, and the priorities of our community. I promise, and this is me, to do my part to keep everything on schedule, not only because I respect everyone's time, but also to love soccer. I have 2 soccer fans here. We have a World Cup. At the end of clock, Mexico's playing, and I want to go and watch that game. So let's make the same schedule, okay? All right. Thank you to all candidates and to everyone attending in person and online, and let's begin. All right. So our first participant is Angie Nixon, a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. Angie, first question. Florida is facing rising property insurance premiums, housing costs, and the growing effect of sea level rise. What specific federal action would you support to help Miami Beach residents to remain in their homes?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, are we doing introductions or no? At the end, okay. So first of all, I just want to say thank you all for having me. I am Florida State Representative Angie Nixon, and I am super excited to be here with you all today. And so your question was in regards to what federal action we would do to do what? I'm sorry.
To help people remain in their homes.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's really important to note that one of the main issues that we have, and what I've seen continually throughout the state of Florida, is that there is a lot of people who are beholden to special interest groups and big corporations, particularly those insurance companies. And so we need to make sure that we are looking to put forth some public options. Right now, a lot of folks are stressing out because they can no longer afford their insurance, and also insurance companies are denying claims. They are also causing people to go into lengthy, long litigation. And so we need to rein them in. But I believe we need to have a fully funded public option so that we can make sure that folks are staying in their homes. We also need to make sure that we are investing in more infrastructure and not using that money on expensive political stunts like Alligator Alley, because that money was designed to make sure that we are shoring up our infrastructure. And so those are just a few of the things that I would look at.
That's very good. Uh, and you have spoken about corporate price gouging. What specific legislation would you support to reduce the cost of groceries, housing, and insurance for Florida families?
For sure. So thank you for that question. I think it's really important to know, to let you know what I've already been doing in regards to corporate price gouging. So there have been times when tons of Floridians have called my office stating that there were different prices in certain communities as it relates to certain grocery items. And so we were able to stop one of those corporations from price gouging hardworking and low income communities. And I basically just used my platform and pushed back and told them I'm somewhat of an activist as well as an organizer, and told them that they do not want that type of bad press. But we definitely need to make sure that we are enforcing folks or finding these big companies that are jacking up prices during times of emergencies or in hardworking communities, and making sure that there is some teeth behind that type of legislation. But one of the things that we can do initially is we need to really look at repealing a lot of these tariffs that are happening right now. They have caused the price of groceries to go up. They caused the price of gas to go up. And we need to be making sure that we are putting that money back in regular everyday folks' pockets, as opposed to the people who have a lot of stock in these things. You know, Donald Trump's net worth has gone up over $4 billion since he's been in office this most recent term, and so has his family members. And at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we are stopping corporate greed, and we can do that by finding them very heavily when they are price gouging.
Thank you. Next. Andy, next question. How has your personal experience with public schools shaped your position on funding public education and the expansion of private school vouchers?
This area is really near and dear to me because I lost my cousin to the school to prison pipeline because he wound up going to a neighborhood school that was not fully resourced, and my mom wound up sending me across town at a more fully funded magnet school in Jacksonville, Florida. And so, what I have done in the state legislature is actively push back in regards to these voucher programs. I am happy to let folks know that I've continually been endorsed by the FEA for making a stance as it relates to these voucher programs. But look, what I can do when I become your next United States Senator is I definitely would encourage and push for Congress to impeach that WWE lady that is leading the Department of Education, and then go to remove her. And we need to make sure that we are holding the purse strings as it relates to federal dollars and not allowing them to trickle down to state governments that are giving away our public dollars to for-profit corporations, corporate schools, and things like that. Look, I learned that from Ron DeSantis, and I learned that from Donald Trump. They like to withhold money. We can withhold money the right way so that they can make sure that they are educating our children the way in which they need to be.
Florida has moved significantly toward Republicans in the next elections, in the recent elections, actually. How would you win over independent voters, which are very important, in Central and South Florida, who may view your progressive record as too polarized?
So I think it's really important to know that Florida is not a red state, it is a red state. And I am happy to let you all know that I go and meet people where they are. I'm also happy to announce that we had some Republicans that came to my town hall meeting 2 days ago, and they let me know that they have changed their party to Democrats so that they can vote for me in the primary, because I am speaking to voters and issues that concern them. At the end of the day, I have always stood up for hardworking everyday Floridians. I will continue to push back against corporations and big money that's in politics right now. And that is the way we win voters. We have to go meet people where they are. I want to be clear, right? I am the only candidate that can beat Ashley Moody in the general election. I don't care how much establishment or corporate money you have behind you. And the reason I am the only candidate is because I know how to motivate people, to get them involved, to let them know that they should be able to see themselves in Washington, D.C. I believe that government should work for the people and not against them. I believe that hardworking, everyday people should get to shape what their communities look like and what their economies look like. Can you all imagine if there were educators and school bus drivers and construction workers and teachers and nurses that were actually crafting our legislation? We wouldn't have to worry about them building $1 billion ballroom that you won't even get to dance in. That money would go towards ensuring that you all have quality health care, to going towards ensuring that our children have quality public education and so much more. And again, I am the only candidate that can unseat Ashley Moody come November.
Any more questions or want to write one?
The
That
question,
seems like lightning already.
You're staying within time.
what is your positive vision for Florida, and what is one specific action you would take to move that vision forward?
My positive vision for Florida is one, again, as I stated earlier, where hardworking everyday people like you get to shape what our communities look like and what our economies look like. Medical debt is the leading cause of bankruptcy in our country. I want you all to think about that. People are literally going bankrupt because they're trying to stay alive. One of the main policies that I would push towards is Medicare for all. And I know folks try to say that, oh my gosh, that's too progressive, it'll cost us too much money. I literally just told y'all they're spending $1 billion on a ballroom you won't dance in. They are spending nearly $2 billion on a war of choice. They are spending millions upon millions of dollars on a reflective pool that is now green. Like, they have the money. They just don't have the morals and the values to do the right thing. And that's why we need to send hardworking fighters to Washington, D.C. People who know what Floridians have been up against and who've been on their sides, fighting them tooth and nail when all of these attacks were happening. And so that is my vision for Florida, one where people don't have to lay awake at night to wonder about how they can just afford to be alive. It costs so much money for us to just be alive. And meanwhile, we just produced the world's first trillionaire. What does that say about us in this country if we have people that have fought and put their lives on the line and they are living homeless on the streets, but we have trillionaires? We need to tax the billionaires. We should not be making trillionaires. We need to make sure that hardworking everyday folks can afford to live here in our state, and that's what it will look like for me.
Right, so we are gonna be going to the
You're gonna have 20 seconds, and approximately 20 seconds. You just try to stay on that time. It's gonna be fast. You ready? Yep. All right, first question. What is the first policy you would prioritize during your first 100 days?
Yeah, so the first priority I would prioritize is pushing for Medicare for all. Definitely, we need to. I know it's going to take incremental steps, and so we actually need to force them to come back to the table to extend the ACA subsidies, and then we can work to reform ACA and then push for Medicare for all. But those are the first things that we need to do because, again, medical debt is a leading cause of bankruptcy, and I've talked to way too many people who aren't going to the doctor because they don't have the money for it.
Very good. The biggest issue facing Floridians right now.
The biggest issue that I am hearing, because I've traveled across the state and I've talked to thousands of Floridians, is again, it costs too much money just to be alive right now. And so affordability is the main issue. And if we did not pass that big BS bill, because that's what it is, right? Like, we need to make sure that we are going back and repealing that bill and making sure these billionaires pay their fair share so that we can invest in the resources that hardworking everyday Floridians need.
What is the most important thing Democrats need to understand about Hispanic voters in Florida?
I think the most important thing that Democrats need to understand is that we all want the same things. We all want to be healthy. We all deserve and want to be prosperous. We all deserve and want to be safe. And we just need to make sure that we are going out and talking to each other and actually pushing back against all this hateful rhetoric and this division. We all want the same things and we all deserve the same things, but we cannot continue to allow these greedy billionaires at the top and these corrupt politicians to continue to divide our communities. We are all the same race, we're the human race, and we again want the same things.
What was for that Democrats do differently to win statewide?
Well, what Florida's need to win statewide is they need to make sure that they elect me during the primary. So that I can go out and ensure that we can, motivate voters to come out and to vote. But we gotta go talk to people, y'all. We gotta expand outside of these four walls that we are in and in those meetings that we're in. And we have to have good conversations. Ron DeSantis banned books. I opened up a banned bookstore, but my banned bookstore is also a third space where we give away free Plan B. We also have mental health workshops, and we do that because a lot of people need health care. A lot of people don't have tutoring programs. And so we use that as an organizing tool. And we're also directly located across from early voting and polling location.
Thank you. I don't interrupt, but that's what he's saying. So we have one more question. If you do not win the primary, will you endorse the Democratic nominee? Yes or no? And why?
Of course, yeah. Are you better why? I mean, I'm going to be endorsing candidates and supporting candidates all up and down the ballot. Look, we have to make sure that we are turning this state blue, right?
Yeah.
We have to make sure. But you know what, I would say, we don't just, it's not about turning the state blue, it's actually about turning the state towards the people. And so that's what we have to do. We need to make sure that we are going out, talking to the people and pushing them to the polls and letting them know that the Democratic Party is a big tent and we accept everyone.
I just want to add, now you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
For sure. So that was a little weird. I usually like doing introductions in the beginning. But look, y'all, I am State Representative Angie Nixon, and I am super excited to be here with you all today. We are boldly being attacked, y'all, and this moment requires bold leadership. Bold leadership, bold, unapologetic leadership that is also willing to sometimes do the unpopular things. I'm not sure if you all know, but I kind of disrupted some illegal and unconstitutional proceedings recently. And illegally remove districts from our communities and take away our ability to decide who we can vote for as opposed to allowing politicians to choose their voters. I am someone who is a mother of 5. I am someone who is a union organizer, the daughter of a veteran, I am also a community organizer, and I love my state. And I look forward to becoming your next United States Senator. But I also just look forward to us just building a new vision for our country, one where every family has stability, one where every worker has dignity, and one where every child and young person has the opportunity to reach the true American dream. Look, y'all, this is our country. This is our state. And we can no longer allow these corrupt politicians and these greedy billionaires to decide the fate of our country and to decide the direction that it goes in. And so again, we are boldly being attacked and we need bold, unapologetic leadership. I know what Floridians are up against. I'm the only one in this primary who has been on the front lines here in this state when women's rights were under attack, when members of the LGBTQ were under attack, when our public education was under attack. I also have been able to pass legislation in the State House. And so I am asking for your support and I'm asking for your donation and for you to join our People Power campaign at AngieNixon.com. Thank y'all.
I don't know that everything's with everybody, everyone will be United States Senator. Thank you so much. And we're gonna keep you up. We're gonna, you want to take pictures?
And we get ready for the next candidate.
Thank you.
All right.
I got it, Linda. Wait, little zoom out. Got it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You did very well.
Thanks, Andy. All right, so our next participant is Oliver Larkin. Some time to talk to him Amazing guy, Democratic candidate for the United States Congress. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. Yes, stand. You want to stand? However you feel more comfortable. Yeah, okay. You want to stand? I'm going to give you just a brief introduction and of who you are, and then we'll start with the questions. Great. All right. You want to do a brief introduction? Yes. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Democrats. Let me hear you. My name is Oliver Larkin. I'm a Democratic candidate for United States Congress in District 25. We run from Miami Beach all the way up to Delray Beach in the Tri-County coastal area. I'm coming into this race as a campaign worker, as a union organizer. I actually stood up and organized a union with the Communication Workers of America in my workplace, fighting for economic justice and dignity on the job, to build power for myself and my colleagues and every single worker that deserves a union. I'm someone who spent over a decade in the progressive movement. When I was 23 years old, I quit my job as a line cook after college and drove to New Hampshire to volunteer for Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign. I was the sixth hire in the state of New Hampshire, traveled the entire country. And after that campaign was over, I've continued my work with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, with New Florida Majority, passing 2018's Amendment 4 to restore voting rights to over 1 million Floridians. And I've spent my career building power for the Democratic Party. And I decided to step up and run because our state is in crisis and South Florida deserves better leadership. And that is exactly what we are offering, a 100% grassroots funded campaign running on progressive policies that we will get into. So I will leave it there and let's get started. Let's get started. You were mentioned as a progressive activist within the traditional Democratic Party. How would you build the winning coalition in South Florida where some voters are skeptical of the Democratic Socialist label? Yeah, we're doing it right now. If you look around the room, the folks in our t-shirts, our campaign volunteers, these are the young voters that too often Democrats are missing out on turning out in our primaries. We are giving young people a reason to register as Democrats. In a closed primary state in the state of Florida, if you are a non-party affiliated voter, you are disenfranchised. You cannot participate in some of the most consequential elections in our state. So we're giving people a reason to be Democrats, and we're bringing them into the party. And once you register as a Democrat, then you see the possibility of electing candidates of your choice, engaging in the primary process, and then building power statewide for those general election races in November. So I believe very strongly that we need to build a Democratic Party in the state that is inclusive of everyone, that embraces progressive ideals. And when people see the most popular Democratic Socialist elected officials in the country, Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Zoran Mamdani, these are the folks that are carrying the banner of the Democratic Party for new generations, for millennials, for Gen Z. And that's exactly what we're trying to build here in Florida, bringing in an inclusive party for everyone, whether you are a New Deal FDR Democrat all the way to a Democratic Socialist or anywhere in between. Whatever brought you into our party, we're giving you a reason to continue engaging and to build that statewide coalition and not flipping, but winning a tough seat in District 25 that Republicans are coming after.
Yeah.
What kind of funding or legislation would you prioritize to protect South Florida from flooding and climate-related infrastructure risks? And how would you build support for it in a divided Congress? Yeah, that's a great question. It's something that we hear about on the doors. We've been canvassing. We've knocked on over 20,000 doors, made 30,000 phone calls throughout South Florida in the district. And property insurance comes up time and time again. I've spoken with seniors, veterans who served our nation in uniform and are on a fixed income, and they see their property insurance bill double from $3,000 to $6,000. And the math just simply does not add up on a fixed income. What we experience here in Florida with the property insurance crisis is due to hurricanes, it's due to flooding, but if you go out west, it's due to wildfires, it's due to extreme drought. So what we need is a federal national homeowners insurance policy that is going to guarantee that when a storm hits our coast, that we're not going to see private insurers be completely liquidated. I've been over on the Gulf Coast, seeing homes that are covered in tarp still from storms that were several years ago. The insurers have not had the capital to be able to properly fill out the claims that homeowners have filed and paid premiums for years and years. So we need the federal support. We also need the infrastructure upgrades.
There's some great legislation passed. I was working with senior members of the House and Senate Democratic Caucus when the Biden administration passed the bipartisan infrastructure law, passed the Inflation Reduction Act that carried a lot of investment that's now unfortunately running out. There's bridges in Bay Harbor Islands that need to be rebuilt. In the city I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, there's a $1.7 billion infrastructure need for stormwater and wastewater. You multiply that out across the district, we're talking about tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in infrastructure needs just to replace the basic stormwater, wastewater, raising roads, raising seawall. We need a Green New Deal in Congress to be able to invest at the level that we need and create the good paying jobs to create a South Florida that's sustainable for the future.
Okay, we're fine. Education is largely governed at the state and local levels. What can a member of Congress realistically do to protect public education, LGBTQIA plus students, and educators?
Yeah, I would start with, I'm not going to be endorsing any Moms for Liberty endorsed school board candidates as a member of Congress. I'll tell you that much. I've been very much engaged in dialogue with teachers, with FEA and United Faculty of Florida instructors in our public schools, all the way up to our public universities in the state. There is a culture of fear and repression in the state, and it's doubled down by the vacuum that's suctioning out the public dollars from our public school system, putting them into unaccountable vouchers that parents can take unaccountably. If the charter school fails, if the CEO of the charter school cuts the money and runs, that money does not return back with that child into the public school system. So it is a race to the bottom. And we've seen, certainly with the DOGE effort, that has completely upended the Department of Education. We're not seeing the federal support that's needed to support our public school teachers, but not just our teachers. It is the bus drivers, it's the cafeteria workers, it's the guidance counselors, it's the speech pathologists, the folks that, as we see in Broward County Public Schools, $45 million they're trying to slash from the payroll. It is these frontline positions, the support staff, that are leaving our children less able to receive the nurturing and the education that they need. So we have to oppose vouchers. We need to support our public school system. And we need to oppose the takeover of higher education in the state of Florida with Adam Hasner at Florida Atlantic University, Jeanette Nunez at Florida International, these 287G agreements that are deputizing campus police forces to carry out detention and deportation work on college campuses that are supposed to be safe havens and places where we are attracting talent from all across the world to be educated in South Florida and to remain in South Florida where they can raise their families to send our children into public schools. So big supporter of supporting our public schools.
South Florida is experiencing one of the most severe housing crises in the country. Your biography mentions that you and your wife had to navigate skyrocketing rentals costs across Fort Lauderdale, Boca Raton, and Deerfield Beach. What specific federal policies would you support to lower housing costs? And how would you respond to concerns that rent controls for federal mandates could reduce new housing development?
Yeah, on federal policy and federal legislation specifically, there are a few pieces of legislation. One is the Faircloth Amendment that was passed in 1998 that caps the number of available social housing units at the inventory that existed in, I believe, October of 1999. Of course, we've seen our population in South Florida grow tremendously since then, but the number of affordable housing units that are able to be owned by municipalities is capped. That's why when we see more investment put into affordable housing, it's routed through these nonprofit organizations that very, very capable and very much invested in building an affordable South Florida, but there's an inefficiency in that spend when you are having to involve outside groups. You're not getting that scale that we need if we repeal the Faircloth Amendment. I would also pair that with passing legislation like the Homes for All Act, which is currently introduced in the House of Representatives. It would build 12 million affordable homes all across the United States. We need to stand up to the private construction industry, the luxury developers, the private real estate industry that is invested in keeping supply low so that they can keep prices and demand very, very high. We're seeing my generation actually being pushed out of South Florida, having to flee to other parts of the country that have better paying jobs, that have more affordable housing. We need to keep our young people that are raised and grow up in South Florida able to build a career here, able to build a family here. So those are a few pieces of federal policy that I would seek to pass or change.
All right. The last question before we go to the lightning round. what is your positive vision for Florida, and what is one specific action you would take to move that vision forward?
That stress that you wake up with, that you carry around with you, because as soon as the money from your direct deposit at your job hits your bank account, it's back out the door for your rent, for your health insurance premium, for your car payment. That economic anxiety that we all feel that gets exacerbated every time there's a corporate merger of a grocery store chain that then jacks up the price of food, every time that there's a merger of an airline that raises the cost of being able to travel to see your family for the holidays. We shouldn't have to sweat these basic things that we all need to survive. Being able to get from part A to part B with your public transportation. We should not see cuts to Tri-Rail. We should not see the ACA slashed to expire the premium tax credits so that our health insurance costs are going through the roof. So what I would do is address the cost of living crisis that we're feeling at every single level of the economy, from our power utilities with Florida Power and Light, raising our rates by $7 billion, from every single thing that is being done just to squeeze us a little bit more. We deserve a champion in Congress that is not bound by corporate PAC donations or special interests or billionaires, so that we can fight freely for the people that elect us to represent them. So what I want to do is address these cost of living concerns in a real way, and to just address the stress. It should not be this hard to live in South Florida. We should all be able to not only survive, but thrive. And that is the kind of policy framework that I'm seeking to build with Medicare for all, with universal childcare, with college for all, with raising the minimum wage to $25 a living wage. These are the things that we need to survive in South Florida as well as across the country.
Yes.
All right, so now we're going to be moving to the lightning round. I'm just going to ask you to please state, give your answers approximately 20 seconds, okay? First question. What is the first policy you would prioritize during your first 100 days?
Like Representative Nixon, it's Medicare for all. We are just beginning to see the ramifications of the expiration of the premium tax credits in the ACA. With Medicare for all, expanded and improved, no premiums, no deductibles, no copays, covering vision, hearing, dental, mental health care, reproductive health care, the right to abortion without restriction. We need everyone in this country to be able to see a doctor when they are sick, when they feel ill, and not feel restricted by costs.
Second question. What is the biggest issue facing the elites right now?
I think it's the economy. It's the cost of living. The Wall Street Journal covered recently. We saw it in migration during the COVID-19 pandemic and in the years that followed. We're actually now starting to see that reverse because there's such a lack of affordable housing, because jobs don't pay enough, and because we're seeing cuts to our public transportation, rising costs across the board, whether you're a renter, whether you're a homeowner. We need to lower the cost of living to keep people in South Florida.
What is the most important thing Democrats need to understand about Hispanic voters in Florida?
That when we have Democrats that think it is politically expedient to throw our immigrant communities under the bus, when we have Democrats in the state of Florida that vote for the Lake and Riley Act and give ICE this power to run roughshod over all of our constitutional and civil rights, the right to due process, the right to privacy, the right to not be accosted by an agent of the state that is accountable only to Kristi Noem, Tim Holman, and Donald Trump. We have to embrace our cultural diversity and fight for a pathway to citizenship. We need to abolish ICE, prosecute those that have harmed us, violated our civil and constitutional rights, and create that pathway to citizenship.
What is the framework next? In the same.
I think what we need to do is embrace the progressive roots of our party, the thing that got FDR elected 4 times, that had a New Deal majority, a New Deal coalition in the United States Congress for half a century, that you will notice was the golden age of the American economy. As much as there were deficiencies, as much as people were left out of that New Deal coalition, we did not see recessions. We've seen so much economic turbulence in the past several years as we've seen the Democratic Party feel that they need to nominate candidates that are further and further to the right. If we stand on our progressive values, if we nominate candidates that truly know which side we're on the side of the working class, then we will be back to winning this state. That's what I'm saying.
If you think out of your primary, then you endorse the Democratic
Nominee, yes or no?
Yes, I'll be voting for every single Democrat running against a Republican in the state of Florida.
Excellent. So now you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
So Miami Beach, we've been drawn into this new district together. For the past 11 months, I've been campaigning in Broward and Palm Beach County in District 23 with my background as a progressive organizer, as a campaign worker, as someone who was raised in the city of Fort Lauderdale, who cares so deeply about the direction of our state. The reason that I decided to step up and run is because I could not conscience the losses that we suffered in 2024 and the direction that our state has gone in. We are in an existential crisis, one that is more acute in South Florida than in other parts of the country. When I consider what our state is going to look like in 50 or 60 years, I want South Florida to not just survive, I want us to be able to thrive and build a sustainable economy for everyone in the state. So what I've been doing, what my team has been doing, we're going door to door. We're talking to voters face to face. We're having town halls. We are showing up for you because I'm here to represent you, your interests, your values. I bring in my very strong point of view, but the best representative that I can be is one that listens to you and hears your concerns and then reflects those in legislative policy, by working hard for you in DC, and by being accountable to you, by coming home and having public town halls, by having public meetings, by having an engaged constituent service team that is going to answer when you have a question about your Medicaid, about your Social Security, about your Section 8. My team will be there to support you and to build the best possible congressional representation our state has seen. And that is what I seek to do. And I'm so very grateful for all of you for showing up here today.
Thank you. Just candidate, Oliver Larkin.
Thanks so much, Mark. My pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. So, I was gonna mention, I have something here. Okay, so this is an especially important local race for Democrats because several Democratic elected officials have already endorsed the Republican candidate. District 5 is the seat formerly held by Commissioner Aileen Higgins. Rob Piper is a longtime Democratic activist, community leader, and current president of the Coral Way Democratic Club. For years, he has worked to engage voters, support Democratic candidates, and advocate for issues affecting Miami-Dade County residents. He is now seeking election to the Miami-Dade County Commission in District 5, where he hopes to bring his experience in community, organizing, and public advocacy to local government. Please welcome Rob Piper. You're gonna have 5 minutes for all your remarks, okay?
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. First of all, thank you to my posse that came out here to root me on. Giorgio and Diane. Thank you to Amanda. Thank you for Laura for getting me to this point. I'm Rob Piper. I've only been in this race for about 2 weeks. And you know why I'm here in this race?
You're gonna win.
Well, that's true. Because it's a privilege to follow progressive candidates like Oliver Larkin and Angie Nixon, because we need that here in Miami-Dade. That is why I got this race. Values. The values of compassion, dignity, equity, progressive values. Don't be fooled by my two opponents, Vicky Lopez and Joe Sanchez. They talk a good game, but they are not progressives. And when I saw that there were no progressives legitimately challenging them in this race, I could not sit back and let that happen. So here I am. I got a long way to go, but I'm going to work my tail off between now and August and November if it comes to that. And I will be ready on day one. I can promise you. So in the meantime, what I need from you, help me expand my footprint on social media. Go to hashtag Rob Piper here to serve. Rob Piper here to serve. That hashtag. Go to my website, www.robpiperheretoserve.com. Sign up for my weekly District 5 emails. One will be going out tomorrow. I send those out every week. I plan to send those out every week when I am commissioner and sitting on that days, because progressive values matter. So Do I still have, how much time do I got?
You still have time.
And you served, did you also serve our country?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I am a retired Marine.
All right.
When I got in this game, when I retired in October 2016. Y'all know what happened in November. You know, the very first time I knocked doors in my entire life was in October 2016. And you know why? Now, ever since then, I've had the privilege of working for Dottie Joseph as her aide. I've had the privilege of.
The Florida legislature, some legislative experience.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I've had the privilege of serving in the campaigns of our current county mayor. I've had the privilege of leading the Democrats of Coral Way. I've had the privilege of working as an organizer with the Miami Beach Democratic Club. And this is a culmination, running for office, the ultimate form of volunteerism. So, and I hope I'm looking to pave the way for others because I want to pass on what I learned. In case you didn't know, I ran for city commissioner, District 3 last year, just this past November. So again, I had to get in this race because I was not going to let two Republicans. It's a nonpartisan race, so you won't see that on the ballot. I couldn't let the seat just go to them without a fight. So join me, help me in my fight, help me expand, help me catch up to Joe Sanchez, help me catch up to Vicky Lopez, and let's do this.
Thank you, man. All right. We now turn to the Democratic primary for Florida House District 106. Joining us are Angela Edwin, Diego, and Lucia Paez Geller. Thank you both for being here. Each candidate will begin with a 2-minute opening statement, and then we will start with Ashley Edwin Diego, followed by Lucia Paez Geller.
Start with me.
So Ashley, yeah, you first. You have an opening statement, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. How many of you here know who Fabian Basabe is and think that we need to be in my way? So that's the short answer for why I'm running for office. The longer one, which everyone constantly asks me, like, why would you do that? Well, I was involved in politics a lifetime ago. I was the president of the Law School Democrats at the University of Chicago Law School, a club like this. And I interned for Senator Durbin in college and Senator Levin in law school. But then life happened. I met my husband, who is a Cuban immigrant. He'd been here for about 3 years when we met our freshman year at the University of Michigan. And we moved to Miami, and we had 3 adorable, they're running around, the 2 on the front row right here.
Soccer fans.
Exactly, big one. Adorable children, but pretty time consuming. And I became a criminal defense attorney. I do post-conviction. I help people after they've been found guilty of a crime to make sure that their constitutional rights were preserved, because I believe the Constitution is very important and that we have to make sure we uphold the rule of law, because if we don't uphold it in every case, it won't be there when we need it. Thank you. And I'm the president of the Board of Transition. We help people get jobs when they get out of jail in Overtown. I didn't really do anything, and that was a full-time job. That took all of my time. We knocked on doors for presidential elections, and I gave money to candidates here and there, but I really was not involved in politics. And then 3 years ago, I found out I had breast cancer, and it really rocked my world. It made me think a lot about my legacy and about what I wanted to take my time away from my kids to do and the world I wanted to leave them. And I realized there were so many important issues out there, like gun control, LGBTQ rights, vaccines. This was after October 7th. Education. We were moving backwards in time. Condo prices and insurance. And therefore, I realized I had to stand up and run for office.
Thank you. Thank you, Agnes. Okay, Gino, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Democrats.
Thank you all to all the club members, everybody for hosting us tonight. I'm Lucia Baez Geller, and I'm running for Florida House District 106 because I know that we need some real leadership in 106, and we need a representative that's going to have the courage and the ability to fight for us in Tallahassee. And I'm also going to send Fabian Basabe to retirement, an early retirement. I grew up right here in Miami Beach on 12th and Euclid in public housing. with a Cuban father, Colombian mother. And because of her sacrifices, I knew that I had to give back. And that's why I've given the past 20 years of my life to public service right here in District 106, becoming a teacher, advocate, and then an elected official on the school board. And I'm running because I've worked with families. I've looked at parents in the eyes through some of their most difficult moments. And I've also had the opportunity to help so many people, especially in elected office. And I want to continue to do that because I don't talk about public service. I live it. I breathe it. It's who I am. I fought for our public schools. I worked for our families. I fought for civil rights while on the board. When all the attacks came from Tallahassee in 2022, I was there. I took the position trying to help. And when the big fights came to me, I took them on with a lot of courage. I didn't back down. And that's who I'm going to be in Tallahassee. And that's why I bring the respect and the endorsement of so many current and former elected officials that represent 106, Commissioner Tanya Bott, Donna Shalala, Michael Ngora, David Richardson. Today, our families are struggling with too many costs, too many issues, healthcare, and Tallahassee, all they focus on is political distractions. And I will be ready to serve 106 on day one and bring people together to make a change.
Yeah. We're now going to go into your open questions, and the first question began for you, Anthony.
Coming from a non-political background, what is one pragmatic solution from your legal career that you believe could help great love in Tallahassee?
Yeah, the most pragmatic solution I learned in my legal career is that if you want to get things done, you can't scream from the rafters. You have to actually work with people from the other side and find common ground. And that is something that I've done for 25 years. I do federal criminal defense, so we have the FBI has investigated my clients for years. And the way to get things accomplished is to work together with the other side to convince them of why you're right. And I've done that this entire time, and that's what I plan to do when I go to Tallahassee. There are so many issues that should not be political, that are nonpartisan, that can make the world so much better for people in Florida. For example, these insurance prices that are so high that just keep going up and up, that's an issue that affects everyone. That's not a Democrat issue or a Republican issue. And it's something that we need to be able to find solutions. We need to figure out a way so that our insurance prices don't go up every year. Same thing with these crazy condo assessments that keep going. That my mother-in-law had a condo assessment that was the entire price of her condo in 1 year. That is crazy. People cannot afford that. We need to figure out how we can get loans, no interest loans to people so that they can actually afford these, and that we don't have all these people in our community who live on fixed incomes being kicked out of their homes. So those are the types of practical solutions. The environment is something I think everybody agrees with. It shouldn't be partisan. We live in Miami Beach. We are at ground zero for flooding, for climate change. And we need to create real infrastructure and real change so that we can have a real future with environmental resiliency. And none of these things are partisan. And I'm going to go to Tallahassee and work across the aisle to get those things done.
Yeah. Based on your family's experience,
What specific economic policy would you champion to help working families that are struggling with the cost of living in District 106?
Well, the cost of living is something that I don't just talk about, I live myself. I'm an 82-year-old mother on a fixed income. And every single day I worry about what would happen to her if she didn't have our help or anything like that. There's a lot of things that we can do. First of all, we have a housing crisis. We need to work on housing affordability, making sure that we are providing the necessary resources to people, whether it be workforce housing, which is something that I was able to work on while on the school board, bring people together so that people can live where they work. Right now, the commutes, spending money on gas, is affecting the quality of life of people. And so we want to make sure our working families have quality of life and that they can get to work in an easy way. We also need to make sure that our working families have access to health care, that we are lowering prescription costs, that we are expanding Medicaid here in Florida, which our governor has continuously not taken the federal funds, leaving money on the table. Florida has one of the highest uninsured rates. One bad accident, God forbid, or one disease is leaving people on the streets. And we also need to make sure that people with incomes, dual incomes, they are still at risk. And even with two people working in the house, the ends ends are not being met. And so we want to make sure that we're paying people a living wage and making sure that they have the resources they need to get their family ahead and build a future.
Thank you. All right, so now we're gonna move to a round of short questions. You're gonna be answering first, Anthony, and then Lucia. This is the question, first question.
Sorry, these are the 20 seconds?
No, this is not the 20. You're gonna have 90 seconds per question. We're gonna have 5. It's just a round of short questions. And we're gonna, all right, so it's gonna be you asking the first one. District 106 is facing rising housing and insurance costs. What specific state policy would you support to help working and middle-class residents to remain in this community?
Yes, that is something that on all the doors we've knocked, that is the biggest issue I think everybody has is the rising costs. One of the things that I'm most excited about in running for office and becoming a state legislator is getting to speak to all the experts in the field and learn the best policies and the most practical ways of getting all this stuff accomplished. From what I've looked into so far, it seems like there are so many options. For example, we can create a policy like a homestead exemptions where the price of your taxes can only go up so much. We can do the same thing for insurance, where insurance prices can only go up so much every year. It's crazy that all of a sudden they can give you a new price every year. Another option is that car insurance, for example, they charge you a specific premium, but then if you don't use that premium and the car insurance company gets too much money after a certain amount of time, they have to give it back to you. We can do the same thing for insurance companies here. Open it up to the private market and basically say they can charge you a certain amount of money because there could be an environmental disaster, but if there isn't, they need to give it back to us, put it back in the pocketbooks of the people.
Thank you. Yeah, same question.
When talking to people, we're hearing a lot that property insurance is a huge problem. And the issue here is that we are seeing a lot of seniors being priced out of their homes. We are seeing people that cannot afford to remain in the communities that they lived in, which is a problem. People lived here decades. And the other issue is that we have a lot of lies from Tallahassee saying they're doing reform after reform after reform, and they promise us that with these so-called solutions that the prices of property insurance are going to be going down. And what we've seen instead is that all the policies that they've been putting out have been protecting the insurance companies and not the policyholders. And while they keep bailing out the property insurance companies, the bills get higher for the citizens. And we know that to be true. So what we want to do differently is we need to make sure that there's transparency and accountability when the insurance prices go up, that we demand that they have accountability to explain why. We need to make sure that our consumers are protected and that we're exploring innovative solutions, such as we can give grants to people to harden their homes so that they're more resilient and therefore their property insurance rates can go down. So we have to make sure that these prices don't keep spiraling out of control, and we need to challenge the insurance industry and get rid of corporate interests so that we can have what we need.
For the next question, Lucia, you're gonna go first and then Anthony. Gonna have 90 seconds as well. How should Florida balance housing affordability, historic preservation, local control, and the Live Local Act would support changes to that law?
Yeah, so historic preservation and development, they're not competing values. We can have both. The question is, do we have leaders that are going to do the hard work, that are going to investigate the responsible ways that we can have development while protecting our historic buildings? I grew up on 12th and Euclid in an Art Deco building. Art Deco is the fabric of Miami Beach. It's an economic issue because that's why people come to Miami Beach. And once that character of Miami Beach is lost, we're never going to get it back. So we need to make sure that we stop Tallahassee from doing one-size-fits-all solutions like the Live Local Act, taking away power from commissioners that we elected and mayors that we elected, so that we can have responsible growth, but not ignore the infrastructure issues that we need, because we need, before we are developing and building, we need to make sure that our community can survive it. That we see that the flooding is not just an inconvenience, it's a safety issue now. So we got to control it, but make sure that we have resiliency planning, community input, because we do need to preserve our historical heritage. And I'm someone that can bring people together and find solutions. And we gotta continue to be able to call Miami Beach our home.
Thank you. Have you done your words? And then you'll be- For the next question, it's gonna be,
Oh,
right?
yes, okay.
Yeah, which is gonna be,
Yeah, I have the same question now, right?
what should be for this
Oh,
topic?
wait, do I don't get to answer her question?
The historic preservation.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yes, as Lucia said, Art Deco is the identity of Miami Beach. My family and I just did the Art Deco walk a few months ago, and it is incredible. 4 years ago, our local boards had control of all of these zoning decisions, all of these Art Deco preservation decisions. But Tallahassee has taken that away slowly but surely, which is what they also did with Live Local, saying that we can build these buildings that go against the local decisions by our commissioners. That is going to take away the character and identity of Miami Beach and all of the communities in 106. We live on these barrier islands. We're the ones who have to live with the construction, the congestion that creates, the environmental consequences of what that happens. We need our local communities to be making those differences, to be making the choices of what affects all of us every single day, because our city commissioners are around. They're people we can talk to. We can't talk to somebody in Tallahassee that's not even our local representative. We need to create a master plan that includes the county, that includes everybody along Collins. So Miami Beach, all the way to Aventura. I was talking to a Surfside commissioner the other day who was saying that we have to actually plan for resiliency. We have to plan for these projects. We can understand where we can build, and for that, we need local control.
What should be forward and stop public education priority during the next legislative session?
Public education, obviously in Florida, we've all seen a state attacks like Tallahassee as of late. When my son was in 3rd grade, they closed the libraries. And my other son was in kindergarten and they had to put books in his bag as if it was contraband because you weren't allowed to give books to children. That is insane. We need Tallahassee to get out of our curriculum. It's telling us what we can teach our children that we can't say to climate change. And we also have a real funding issue structurally. We have these buildings that in Ruth K. Broad, which is in Bay Harbor, the building has been in air conditioning for years. And lately, the biggest thing that's been going on is that Tallahassee now has passed a law that lets people go in, that is letting these charter schools go into the public schools and take their spaces away for elective classes. We cannot allow that to happen. These public schools, these children deserve everything, electives, whether they're taking their music classes away without any thought to what the public school actually needs.
Public education is not something that I just care about. It's something that has been my life's work, my life's purpose. First, spending 15 years teaching teenagers, some in this room, at Miami Beach Senior High, and then helping to govern Miami-Dade County Public Schools as a school board member, the 3rd largest school district in America. And so I was there when Tallahassee asked teachers to do more with less. I was there when Tallahassee was cutting teacher pay and it was hard to retain teachers. And we had classrooms that we were struggling to find teachers for. I was there when the culture wars set up by the Republicans in Tallahassee were being used to attack our students and the dignity of our students and to distract people from the lack of work that they were doing. Our governor has done many press conferences while I was on the board saying that he is helping out education, while in the meantime, they're siphoning money away from our schools and giving up to private entities, and there's no way to trace where that money is going. So we absolutely need to make sure that our schools are fully funded. We need to make sure that we are taking care of all affordability issues so that teachers can live where they work. And we need to continue to work on protecting our public schools because our teachers, they are working hard and they should be able to have good lives, and our students should be able to achieve academically, and Tallahassee should not be intervening in those choices. And I will never stop fighting for children, families, and public schools.
Regina, What role should the state play in helping coastal communities prepare for flooding and climate risks without making the region less poor?
Yeah, so I've lived here in Miami Beach for 40 years, so unfortunately, I've seen the decline of our climate resilience face on, and we've seen that climate resilience is one of the greatest threats to District 106, and that's facing our homes and our businesses and our infrastructure and our properties. And it's really become a public safety issue when we see cars on the side of the road, when we don't have access to buildings. And Tallahassee, just like with many other things, it's just talking points. And we need to find the resources, bring them back down to Miami Beach. Miami Beach, Surfside, Gull Harbor, Aventura, we're paying a lot of taxes and we're not seeing that investment back into our communities, especially when it comes to climate resilience. And we need to have safety upgrades. We need to have make procurement decisions that are in favor of support of helping our climate resilience. And we need to make sure that we have infrastructure first planning, that everything that comes up in our city and District 106 has been studied, that the effects have been studied, traffic, quality of life, and that our district can actually support some of these. And so this is a coastal community. It's different. It's not the same as Orlando or Jacksonville or anywhere else. And we do need our local governments to be able to decide on how to save our city. And we cannot afford 4 more years of falling behind while the water keeps rising.
Yes, when I talked about the legacy I was leaving my children, the environment is what I meant by that, right? If we don't do something about it now, we will be underwater and we have to protect ourselves. I've been involved with Miami Waterkeepers since its inception, like 15, 20 years ago. We have been working to find solutions and we need to figure out how to find them. And instead of focusing on figuring out how to stop the flooding and how to make Miami Beach more environmentally resilient, Tallahassee's preempting us from actually doing something. A friend of mine's daughter went to the Surfside City Hall to try to get plastic bags banned and learned that Tallahassee wouldn't allow that. Local governments are not allowed to ban plastic bags. How insane is that? We live in a place where the streets flood so bad in king tides that my children kayak on the street. My daughter and I on the weekends collect bags and bags of trash that are floating in the ocean, and yet we're not allowed to do anything about it. We need to work together, like I said before, with the county, with all of the different communities. We need all the commissioners working together to create a real master plan so that we can create a real solution. We can't solve these problems in isolation, and we need to be open to innovation because that is the only way that we will really solve this problem.
Democrats have performed strongly in Miami Beach, but struggled in other parts of District 106. What would your campaign do differently to expand support in the northern part of the district and defeat Fabian Basabe?
Yes, this district is 30% Democrat, 30% Republican, and 40% independent. So what my campaign is already doing differently is focusing on those independents. We lost Aventura last time, and that is highly important. And that is one of the reasons I decided to run, because as a Jewish woman, I feel that I can relate to a lot of these Jewish people that have become independent and have left the Democratic Party. We need to bring everyone back. We need to talk to every single voter. We can't just give up on people. We need to have conversations, knock on the doors, go to the events, and that's what I've been doing since the very beginning. My campaign has knocked on over 20,000 doors already. You are the only candidate to qualify by petition. We got over 1,600 petitions. That is we've gotten them from Republicans, from independents. When you talk to people, they understand and you can find common ground, and that is how we win.
I've been fortunate enough in my time as a public servant here in District 106 to build a lot of coalitions. It was part of the work I did as a teacher and as a school board member representing different community groups, different people, different organizations, different leaders, working with leaders in every single municipality in 106. I have worked with them in order to protect our schools. And many of them do not have the same vision as the other. And I was able to work in a nonpartisan environment to get things moving. But as a Democrat, what I've learned is that people want to be heard. And a lot of people think that we only show up to get people's votes. So we have to be around all year long and showing how Democrats are working for the issues that improve quality of life, and that we are the ones that are making sure that, you know, the streets are good and that we have resilience and that all of these things. And we have to actually listen, and we have to meet people where they are and be able to go into rooms that we're not comfortable going into, because we do have to talk to everybody. And we have to respect everybody's experiences, even if they're different as our own. But my job as an elected official was to move things forward with people that I definitely did not have anything in common. And that's why we have to continue doing that. And people like Fabian Basabe, all they do is incite division among people. So we want to make sure that we bring people together in coalitions and that we show up in every neighborhood, in every community, and we listen and we build trust. That's how you build trust. And I think that's what more people need to have for our Democrats, and we will get there.
Okay, before we move to the lightning round, I'm going to ask a specific question.
We're going to start with you, Ashley. Which current Florida law do you believe poses the greatest threat to the individual liberties of District 106 residents?
I'm sorry, Kate, I'm so sorry. Repeat the question. Lucy was asking if she can go first.
No. It's a specific question just for you.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Just for you.
Okay, sorry. Repeat
Yeah.
the question, please. I'm sorry.
Go
I know
ahead.
we're doing
My
time.
fault.
So, which current Florida law do you believe poses the greatest threat to the individual liberties of District 106 residents?
And currently, I would say the one that people are the most upset about is Live Local. You know, it is, our community is unique. We are a barrier island, and we talked about the Art Deco, the preservation. We have a beautiful beachfront, small community that we need to preserve. And Live Local takes that away from us. It takes away the votes from the community leaders who live here and are our neighbors. And it also takes away the quaintness. It takes away the beauty of our communities, and it forces all of us to live with the consequences. We need to change Live Local so that developers cannot put a 16-story building somewhere that should only allow 3 stories. And so that Tallahassee is not the one deciding what buildings can go where, who can affect our neighbors, what streets can be congested, and where they can build. We need to be the ones making those the decisions for ourselves.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How do the family's experiences with political persecution and immigration inform your approach to Florida's immigration policies and the protection of refugees?
Well, my father came here as a refugee in the Morale boat lift in the 80s. And that's because he wanted freedom. And we have to make sure that our local leaders here in District 106, that they are not essentially voting and allowing us to deputize federal agents to come into our homes, to come into our schools, and take away our rights. Obviously, we need to make sure that our communities are safe, that, you know, our borders are safe, but we also need to make sure that we have a dignified way. Something that I'm extremely passionate about is the DACA students as a teacher. Every single year, our students did not know they would be able to come back because every single year they had to apply. Right now, there's an act in Congress to see whether they will continue to have their rights. I had students that in the middle of their night, their parents would be taken away, that would become homeless overnight. And so we absolutely need to make sure that our families are protected, that we have a path to citizenship for those families that are working here, and that we respect everybody's human dignity all the time, and that we don't keep giving our taxpayer money away to political stunts like Alcatraz, where $1 billion of our taxpayer dollars were used, and that we use that for better purposes.
All right, so now we're going to be moving to the lightning round.
Please give me a chance here to approximately 20 seconds, and I will alternate who answers first, and we're going to start with you, Ashley. 20 seconds. What is the single biggest issue facing District 106 right now?
I think it's affordability. People cannot afford to live under the current circumstances with these condo assessments, with the housing prices, with the way that insurance is, that it's going up and up, with how expensive gas is, groceries are. People need a lifeline. They need help. And as in the state of Florida, going to Tallahassee, we need to help everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think our capacity to support growth and in our city, we can't keep putting pressure on our roads, on our barrier island, on our water and our sewer and our drainage. And so we have to do more for that, but we also need to do more for housing affordability to make sure that people can live where they work. It's very important. And we also need to restore local control because the people closest to the problem should be the ones who can make decisions on it. And our communities should have meaningful voice in the direction that our city is going.
Okay, Lucia, this question is, you go first. What is one Florida law that you would most like to change?
There are so many. I'm trying to think. Right now, I think that we need to make sure that there's not government intervention in our personal decisions, especially when it comes to healthcare, reproductive care. And we have to make sure that Tallahassee does not continue to preempt what we are doing in our local communities. I think local preemption is a huge problem. We should be free to decide for ourselves, period.
Yes, local preemption is the biggest problem that is affecting us these days. That Tallahassee is slowly but surely taking power away from local government to the people that understand and know what the issues are so that we can't solve our own problems. That's what this latest tax law is anyway, right? It's trying to take more control so that Tallahassee has the purse strings, so that we as local governments can't fund our own police, our own firefighters. We need to keep control locally.
Now, you guys have to vote. What do you Tallahassee understands about South Florida?
Tallahassee needs to understand that we stand up for ourselves and that we fight, that we won't take no for an answer, and that we will solve our problems. We will create a master plan. We will figure out our environment. We will decide where we are building things, and we're not going to sit down and take whatever they tell us that we have to do.
Is it?
What Tallahassee and politicians like Fabian Basabe misunderstand is that all they are offering us is fake solutions to problems that they have created after the Republican Party has been in full control of Florida for the past 30 years. They misunderstand that everything that's going on is their own fault. And we, the taxpayers and local communities, have been the ones to pick up the hard work and make sure that we are running and that their unfunded mandates don't harm us too much.
Lucia, what is the most important thing Democrats need to understand about Hispanic voters in Florida?
Well, as a Cuban, Colombian, American, I would say it's important that they understand that they're not all the same. They're not a monolith. That Latino voters, they don't just care about immigration and Latino issues. They care about everything. They also want to make sure that they can pay rent and that their children have a good future. So we need to talk to every aspect of life when we talk to Latinos and not just talk to them during their lifetime.
Well, Ashley, should local governments have more control over development decisions? Yes or no?
Yes. I mean, of course, yes, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, yes, absolutely. It's not just an economic issue, an infrastructure issue, it's a morale issue. People are not going to be going out to vote and want to engage in civic participation if they think that their vote and what they're doing doesn't matter. So we want to make sure we get local control back.
Lucia, in one word, describe your leadership style.
I would say empathetic / compassionate.
That's three words.
Compassionate, loving, accessible, here for everybody. Oh, I was just defining. I was defining what I meant. Sorry.
Ashley.
Use as many words as possible.
I will use two. I am hardworking and practical, and I never give up.
Thanks. Okay, one more question. We got to do for a second. If you do not win the primary, will you endorse the Democratic nominee? Yes or no?
Of course, the goal is to get rid of Fabian Basabe.
Absolutely. I think running for office, especially as a woman, is very important. We need to make sure people are behind the Democratic nominee and that they are part of the democratic process in all parts.
Thank you, both candidates. Now you're gonna have 2 minutes for a closing statement. We're gonna start with you here, and then Natalie, you're gonna have your 2 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I've spent my entire career fighting, standing up to special interests, standing up to groups that were trying to take away rights from our schools, our children, our families, and people who don't always have a seat at the table. And it's been the privilege of my life to be able to stand up for people when they need somebody to speak up for them. And I did it when not only when it was easy, but also when it wasn't easy, because I like to do what is right all the time. And when Governor DeSantis in Tallahassee and politicians targeted our schools, I was there. When extremists came after me personally with my face, their shirts with my face on a target saying, shoot your local pedophile, because I supported our LGBTQ youth, I stood up even stronger. And right now, all we have is distractions from Fabian and Tallahassee. And while people are suffering, life has become more expensive, insurance, healthcare, and life is just harder for our working families. And I'm someone who's already proven that I can bring results. That's why 15 elected officials have endorsed me. That's why I have the support of labor organizations, AFL-CIO, SEIU, Teamsters. That's why the people defending our civil rights like SAVE and Equality Florida have supported me and endorsed me. It's not because I'm promising that I will do something. It's because they've seen already what I have done. And so I grew up in this community. I will always defend this community. This community gave my mom and I, a single mother, all the opportunities that I've had. And I have experienced leadership, and I will be ready on day one. And I would be very honored to earn your vote.
Yeah, so thank you all for coming tonight. We've heard a lot about why it shouldn't be Fabian Basabe, but the next question is why me? It's because I have the best shot of beating Fabian Basabe. I am the hardest working candidate out here. I'm treating this like a full-time job. We have, as I said before, knocked on almost 20,000 doors. We are the only candidates qualified by petition, and that matters. That's how you win races, is by knocking on doors and talking to people and meeting them where they're at. I've been going to every community event. Invite me to an event, I will come. Check out my Instagram and you will see. And I have loved it. I have loved every aspect of this campaign. I love knocking on doors with my kids. I have loved going to community events because it's given me hope in this hopeless time. We watch the news and we think the world is ending. But you go to these events and I've met so many wonderful people that are doing such wonderful things. And it's given me such hope about our future. When I've knocked on doors, I've also learned what people want. They want a new, fresh perspective. People are sick of the same old, and that is what I will give them. And I also have spent my life in a courtroom where I know the opposing counsel. I know who Fabian Basabe is. He sows chaos and distrust, and I cannot wait to hold him to account. Fabian Basabe says one thing out of one side of his mouth and then goes and does another. I cannot wait to debate him, to talk to him, to talk about him, and to win. And because of that, that is why I got the support of local leaders like Mayor Levine Cava, the last person to hold this seat that was a Democrat, Mike Rico. And the last thing I'll say is that I'm not going to Tallahassee and leaving my 3 children to get nothing accomplished. I'm going to go there and I'm going to bring back everything for this community.
Thank you so much. So you
I'm gonna get one, guys. I'm gonna get one.
Yeah, fun. Yeah, over here, hold her up, please.
All right, Amanda, good.
All right, thank you so much.
I like a picture of everything.
Good buddy.
Let's continue. We still have a couple of new candidates. We're gonna welcome our next participant.
Go, let's go.
Our next participant is Dana Foster. She's a Democratic candidate for the governor of Florida. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Thank you, Dana.
Good evening, everyone. How are you all doing?
We have 1 minute just to make a brief introduction.
My name is Dana Marie Foster, and I'm running to become the Democratic nominee for Florida governor. I am a public servant and have been since I was 19 years old. My public service started within Broward County Libraries, and 5 years ago, I transitioned into public education, where I have been a teacher at my alma mater of Fort Lauderdale High School. And I am bringing a new perspective to this gubernatorial race. We have tried the same playbook for the last 30 years and we have not won. And so now it's time to take one of our own and everyday working Floridian and put them at the top office, which is the governor's office.
Thank you, Dana. It's gonna be asking you 5 specific questions and then we'll go to the lightning round, okay? Okay, so you have 90 seconds per question. The first one is this one. Florida has expanded voucher programs while public schools face funding and staffing challenges. How would you balance parental choice with the need to protect and fully fund public education?
So as a teacher, I'm currently living through these budget cuts that are taking place within public education. And so it's incredibly important to make sure that we're fully funding and protecting our schools. The way that we intend at Foster for Florida to implement this funding is through raising the corporate tax rate. When you raise it by at least 1 to 2 percentage points, you are able to generate revenue about $1 to $2 billion that we are able to inject back into the budget. Then as it relates to school choice, I do believe that parents should have the choice to be able to choose where their students go to school. However, I also do believe that public dollars belong in public schools.
Florida insurance crisis is pricing families out of their homes. What is your specific strategy to stabilize the market and lower premiums, which are going to
Correct. So when you think about it in economics terms, right? If you have high demand for something and then you increase the supply, the price or the cost comes down. And so we saw a few congressional candidates that were here earlier when they discussed how they would implement some type of oversight legislation as it relates to the insurance crisis that we have across the country. So as it relates to Florida, we would leverage that type of legislation. In addition, we would make sure.
Then you turn it off.
Did I turn it off? No, it says on.
It's on?
Hello? Okay.
Hello. Yeah.
There's so much fun with
Okay.
these mics.
Sorry about
We changed the
Wait.
battery for this one?
I think this one too.
Oh, they're both dead?
I think
Oh,
they're
then
both
that is something.
Oh.
Hello?
Oh, gosh, the owner walked out. Give me one, the backup mic, there's, right,
Hello,
the
hello?
backup mic.
The back.
Right.
And the board.
I see it.
This one, right?
Yep. And it is wired. Okay.
We
That is your
wired.
mic.
Okay.
Your backup.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, perfect.
Yay.
So as I was mentioning before, we would leverage that federal legislation for oversight, but at the state level, we would also ensure that we have oversight as well to make sure that we're stabilizing the market, because what we want to see is more insurers enter the market. So again, we have that increased supply so that the cost goes down, and then we're not having those heavy financial burdens on our residents.
How would your administration protect reproductive rights, LGBTQIA plus rights, and personal freedom under the current political balance cabinet?
So I actually just saw something recently online. There's a woman here in our state where she is literally carrying a fetus that is no longer viable, her pregnancy, and she's unable to get a DNC because of our state laws. And she's been carrying around this unviable pregnancy for weeks. This is where we've come to as the state. And so, as the next governor, should Florida elect me to be her governor, I intend to make sure that I work with the Republican-led legislature, just because that's the reality in which that we live right now. So, unfortunately, the Democratic leadership, we are a severe minority. So there is going to have to be a lot of bipartisan work as being the next governor and being a Democratic governor. And so I would work to ensure that we're repealing some of these mandates and these legislations that are enshrined within our state law. Same thing for LGBTQIA plus protections. As an educator, when the Don't Say Gay bill passed, that impacted my ability to be able to respect my students and their autonomy. And for whatever reason, Republicans are just so concerned with the LGBTQ community and what they're doing with their lives. And at the end of the day, they're just trying to live just like the rest of us.
What does the people first government mean in relation to local 287G agreements between law enforcement and agencies and us?
What does people first government mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So people first simply means that, putting people first. We have an attorney general who has bullied local municipalities into signing 287G agreements, even with our public universities, bullying them into signing these agreements. And they are not mandates, they are optional. We have done everything that we needed to as a state to follow and comply with federal law. These 287G agreements, they're an excessive measure in terms of bringing discrimination, bringing divisive rhetoric, putting fear within the hearts and souls of our immigrant population. And as an educator, I'm seeing firsthand how with these 287G agreements, with ICE infiltrating our communities, we have students that are not coming to school because their parents are afraid to leave the house and drive because they think that they're going to get pulled over by ICE. And so we have to ensure that we have a governor that will put humanity on the highest of pedestal and making sure that we repeal these 287G agreements at the state level and making sure that we have a Democratic AG that will not bully local municipalities for stepping back and rescinding from these 287G agreements.
Thank you. We need to lightning round.
Okay.
Dana, what role should the state play in helping coastal communities prepare for flooding and climate risk while protecting affordability?
So I really appreciate the prior two candidates and the rhetoric that they brought about the Live Local Act and home rule. And I believe very firmly that the state should be a guide, but local governments know their communities best. And so the state should be empowering local governments to carry out legislation for what's best for their communities and not telling them what to do.
So now we're going to move to the lightning round. We're going to have 20 seconds question, okay?
Okay.
Okay, the first one is, what is the single biggest issue facing Florida right now?
Affordability. Would you like me to expand on that?
You want to have 20 seconds?
Okay. So just really quickly, affordability is a huge issue within our state. And so what we intend on doing is through expanding that corporate tax rate by 1 to 2 percentage points, we're able to take those funds and, for example, be able to issue out micro grants so that we have financial resources for our small business owners. In addition, we want to make sure that we're close. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I wanted to touch on our housing. Yeah, I wanted to touch on our housing strategy. But
what is one state law that you would most like to change?
all of them, but I have to stay true and blue, especially to my roots being an educator. 1296 really came for us hard with our unions, and our unions advocate and fight for our workers' protections. And so to come for our unions is coming for our very financial pockets, and I would make sure that that would be overturned.
What must Democrats do to defeat one state?
Listen to the people and elect more progressive candidates. Right now, we are tired of seeing career politicians come in, make these promises that sound so good, and life is still exactly the same. And this is why we are here 30 years later without having any type of gubernatorial administration where we've had a Democratic governor.
What is the most important thing Democrats need to understand about Hispanic voters in Florida?
So to kind of piggyback off of what one of the previous candidates had mentioned about there being diversity right within the Hispanic population, it's not a one size fits all. You have Hispanic people that are from Colombia, from Cuba, from Guatemala, from Venezuela, right? And in addition, we have to stop not even just with the Hispanic population, but even other marginalized communities. Stop showing up when it's just election time. Show up all the time so that we know that you actually care.
Last question. If you do not win the primary, will you endorse the Democratic nominee? Yes or no?
Yes, I will endorse the Democratic nominee that is for the people.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. So I'll say to my 2 minutes, but what I want to acknowledge is this. I know that I'm not the candidate that the establishment has picked, but I am the candidate that the people have built. Over the last year, I've traveled across this entire state, meeting the people of Florida, hearing their stories of struggle, of triumph, and of hope. And that's why we say here at Foster for Florida, hope is on the ballot. And that hope lives within our campaign, and we are the people's campaign. And so, Miami Beach, I am humbly asking for your vote to become the Democratic nominee, because we need to ensure that our next governor is a candidate that has shared values and lived experiences. But even more so than that, we need to ensure that the Democratic nominee is prepared to go toe-to-toe with the Republican nominee, whether that's Byron Donalds or James Fishback. We also need to make sure that they are able to go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump. And what I'll say is that fascists fear teachers. So on August 18th, we will absolutely take back our democracy. On August 18th, we will take back our state. And on August 18th, we will complete that first step in flipping Florida blue. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I'll get in the pen. Yeah, he's trying to fix the sound. Look at all the blue.
Blue way.
Thank you. Thank you. Strong woman.
So before we conclude, we'll hear from Dodie Joseph. She's a Democratic candidate for governor of Florida as well. Dottie Joseph is an attorney. She's an educator and former member of the Florida House of Representatives. During her time in the legislature, she advocated for public education, economic opportunity, healthcare access, and voting rights. A longtime community leader and public servant, she is now a candidate for governor of Florida and is working to build a future that expands opportunity and strengthens communities across the state. Please welcome Dottie Joseph, and you will have 5 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, give yourselves a round of applause just for sticking it out to the end. Thank you so much. I mean, you are the reason that we are here, right? Like, it's us standing in the trenches, making sure that we are the last line to protect what's left of our democracy that's on life support. For those who don't know me, I am Dottie Joseph, and I proudly represent Florida House District 108. I was born in Haiti, raised right here in Miami-Dade County, public schools all throughout. I've gone to some of the best and the worst schools that this county has to offer. Graduated from Design and Architecture Senior High. My background is in fine arts. Yeah. So I really get historic preservation. I had the opportunity. So as an immigrant, there's like a menu of professions that you can have. You know what they are: doctor, lawyer. So the one that was dubbed for me early on was law. So I tested it out in high school and I interned at the Miami-Dade Public Defender's Office. But this was back in the days of the crack cocaine epidemic. And what I saw was a lot of people going to jail that just needed medical attention. And it broke my heart. And I decided I didn't want any part of this criminal injustice system. So I wrote off being a lawyer. Then I graduated and had the opportunity to go to Yale University, where I interned for Congressman Peter Deutsch, first in his district office, and fell in love with constituent services, helping people fix their problems and making government actually work for us and not against us. Then they invited me over the summer to work as a legislative correspondent in DC. So I got all excited. I got there and I got to Capitol Hill, and I was completely disillusioned by how our democracy didn't actually function. People didn't know what was in their bills, special interests was running things. So I wrote off politics. Okay. Graduated, took some time off. During that time off, I was able to volunteer at my dad's church as the acting youth director. And then I interned at the Carter Center in Atlanta, working with former President Jimmy Carter. And this man and his wife restored my faith in what a public servant could be. People who are out there doing the work, not for self-aggrandizement, but for the people. So I did a program in The Hague in mediation and conflict resolution. And all of my mentors are like, listen, you're passionate about human rights and civil rights. You really need to consider law school. So I sucked it up and I went to law school. I went to Georgetown University Law Center in Washington, D.C. And while a lot of my colleagues are out making big bucks at fancy firms, I was out doing the Lord's work, civil rights and human rights. I interned at the United States Justice's Civil Rights Division. Back then, we were making sure that agencies that received federal funding were accommodating people who speak other languages. How the DOJ has changed. And with the National Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under the Law, helping to co-author the manual that organizations use to register voters around the country. Then over the summers, I would work with refugees, with the UNHCR in Uganda, actually the UNHCR in Cairo, Egypt, Sudanese refugees, and in Uganda, I worked primarily with Congolese refugees. Graduated from law school, clerked for a federal judge, joined a civil rights firm where we litigated employment discrimination class actions all around the country. I wrote briefs that took us all the way to the Supreme Court, and I unapologetically kicked butt. I came back home to serve, became the first Black attorney to work for the city of North Miami Beach, assistant, deputy, and interim city attorney. Then I was involved in not one, not two, but 3 car accidents, none of which were my fault. And they made me take stock of my life and what I was doing. I was already a public servant, a job with a 6-figure income, pension, immigrant mom's dream, but I knew I could be doing more. So I resolved in that moment that for whatever time I had left on this great big ball of mud we call Earth, I would do as much as I can for as many as I can for as long as I can. So I didn't say I was going to run for office. It wasn't on a front burner or a back burner. That was like a Jonah Wales moment. So I took it out of the trash. Fast forward a year later, I'm now first vice chair of the Miami-Dade DEC and was trying to recruit candidates for a particular seat where there was a gentleman who I love. And I think he thought he was doing the right thing, but he was selling out our community left and right, particularly as it relates to the public education system. So I decided to run. The firm that I was working at did not want me to run. So I left that job that paid me. So right now, as a state rep, I make $29,500 pre-tax. That's what I used to make in a month or two. That was a sacrifice I made. And think of any issue that we care about as a Democrat. Those are the issues I've literally been championing in the legislature. It's not a theory for me. I know the people in the legislature and I've been actively fighting them. And I know what to do when I get to the governor's mansion. And I know who I'm dealing with. And I'm asking you to choose me as your fighter because I'm here for fighting for nobody else but you. Thank you.
And well,
I'll go tonight.
we're gonna take a picture. This pretty much concludes our night. Thank you to all the candidates. Thank you to everyone who came tonight.
Last words.
And I'll be there. That works.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Young Democrat right here.
And I'll just say, check out my website, dotiejoseph.com, dottiejoseph.com. If you like what you heard, I need support. Drop in a little contribution. Every little bit counts. We have a long way to go. Thank you.
All yours.
I don't need the microphone.
With the mic?
No, just go for it.
And if you don't know me, well, if you do know me, you know I'm loud. And now if you don't know me, you know I'm loud. So before we conclude tonight, I want to thank all of our candidates for participating in the forum, and stepping forward to serve. Running for office is not easy. It requires courage, sacrifice, and a belief that our communities can do better. No matter who you support in the Democratic primary, let's give all our candidates a round of applause for putting them. I want to give a special thank you to our moderator, Poncho. The first celebrity we've had, so.
One of that.
Yes, we do. And our co-host, the young Deb, Adrian President. And the county Deb, Vice Chair lost, left. Okay, well, we have our chair still here, and we had our vice chair previously. And I want to give a big thank you to our board members, Linda Kokel, Tim Johnson, Kevin Harris, Shannon Murphy, and our other board members are on Zoom, the Hotel Marseilles. But most importantly, we want to thank all of you in this room, because democracy doesn't work without you. And with that, we cannot end tonight's involvement with here, because this is just the beginning. So the question is, what can you do? We have our next day of action on June 25th. That is winning elections one conversation at a time. Okay, we text and we phone base, we have pizza and wine, and we have fun. If you can't make it, we're having a summer volunteer challenge, which started 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
Week 3.
And we're on week 3. I have to brag, I'm in the lead, with what, 300 texts?
Planning, but.
Linda does like 30, 40 a week. That's awesome. 10 phone banks. He gets like 20 done a week. Every phone call matters. There are statistics for that. Third, if you're not a member of the club and you're a registered Democrat, it's $35. And you get to come to our holiday party for free. Fourth, if you don't want to become a member, you can make a donation. These events cost money. Our signs cost money. Our mass texting costs money. Anything from $5 to whatever you want to donate, we appreciate. And finally, please mark your calendars for our next meeting on July 8th. We'll be right here. We will have our favorite state senator, Chevron Jones. He's running for Congress, unfortunately outside our district now, but we love him, and he'll give us an update on dirty Tallahassee special sessions. We will also have Senate candidate Alex Finman, and we'll have nonprofit transitions there to talk about their work. We really appreciate everyone, and we want to leave tonight remembering what brought us together. Tomorrow is Juneteenth, Sunday's Father's Day. And tonight, Democrats across Miami-Dade County came together in unity, optimism, and purpose. The real challenge is ahead of us, but it's all of our determination. The future is not something that just happens. It's everyone in this room who built it together. So let's organize, volunteer, and vote. Let's turn my blue. We're ahead of schedule.